Oliver Whitmore bet $2 million that he could transform any girl into the perfect lady in 3 months. His target? Evelyn Carter, the city's most rebellious socialite. But what he discovered on their wedding night was the biggest shock of his life. This is a story about pride, love, and second chances. A man with a broken past meets a woman who appears rebellious to society, but is actually fragile inside. Their meeting wasn't coincidence, but the outcome was more powerful than either could have imagined. The lights of London sparkled like glimmering galaxies in the night darkness. On the top floor of Whitmore Tower, Oliver Whitmore stood with a glass of amber whiskey in his hand, gazing at the streets below. But his mind was lost in the past. Just a few years ago, his life had been a perfect chain of successes. Coming from a happy family, he once believed love was the most beautiful and enduring thing in the world. He had loved wholeheartedly, trusted unconditionally. But Isabella, the woman he thought would share his life, had betrayed him in the cruelest way. He remembered that unforgettable day, walking into their shared apartment and seeing Isabella in the arms of another man, his biggest competitor in the industry. Every sweet lie, every promise, had been merely tools to get close to him and use him. From that moment, Oliver realized love was a luxury, a game he no longer wanted to play. But the elite world wouldn't allow Oliver to hide forever. The grand gala at the Ritz Hotel brought together the wealthiest and most powerful figures in the city. Amidst the music and dazzling lights, Oliver carried his usual calm and cold demeanor. He didn't enjoy these parties, but they were opportunities to expand his business network. Beside him, Michael Donovan, his longtime friend from university, took a sip of his drink and smirked. "Alex, are you going to keep that serious face all night? You should learn to enjoy life a little." Oliver swirled his whiskey, his deep voice calm yet indifferent. "I enjoy it in my own way." Michael's lips curled, his eyes glinting mischievously as he nodded toward the far end of the hall, where a group of young women were laughing and chatting. Among them, a woman with chestnut hair stood out, her striking blue eyes sparkling under the lights, exuding a mix of allure and reckless abandon. "Evelyn Carter," Michael said slowly, watching Oliver's reaction. "She's the nightmare of high society, the wild heiress the tabloids love to chase." Oliver glanced at her briefly, his expression unreadable. "So what?" Michael raised an eyebrow, a sly smile forming. "I bet you can't turn her into a perfect lady in 3 months." Oliver set his glass down, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "And if I do?" $2 million, Michael replied smoothly, his gaze challenging. Oliver knew he was stepping into a dangerous game, but part of him was drawn to the challenge. To him, Evelyn was just a pawn in a bigger scheme, a mere transaction. If he won, he would prove there was nothing he couldn't control. "Deal," Oliver said decisively, sealing a bet that would change his life in ways he never anticipated. Across the room, Evelyn Carter observed silently. She was no stranger to the scrutinizing glances and whispers surrounding her. As the only daughter of a prestigious family, she had earned a reputation as a true rebel. Endless parties, extravagant shopping sprees, and reckless speeding in sports cars, everything was a carefully crafted facade to conceal a bitter truth. Since her mother passed away, Evelyn had been living in a cold mansion with her indifferent father and manipulative stepmother. They never truly cared for her, seeing her only as a tool to further their wealth. And now her father was forcing her into a marriage with a man twice her age for financial gain. She needed an escape. When Oliver's icy gaze met hers, Evelyn realized she might have found a way out. Marrying Oliver could be her only way to avoid the arranged marriage. Even if she didn't believe in love, this deal might just be her salvation. A whole week later, in Oliver's luxurious penthouse, Evelyn sat across from him. A meticulously detailed marriage contract lay between them on the table. 3 months. Evelyn arched an eyebrow playfully. "And what do I get after that?" "A sum of money large enough for you to live without ever relying on anyone." Oliver responded firmly, his voice devoid of emotion. Evelyn smirked. "Then we have a deal." She signed the contract, and as Oliver watched her elegant signature form, he realized the real game had just begun. The Grand Imperial Hotel, renowned for hosting the most lavish events in London, was more splendid than ever tonight. White flowers adorned every corner of the grand hall, massive crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the soft melody of violins filled the air. The elegantly arranged tables welcomed the city's elite, who exchanged curious and intrigued glances. The wedding of Oliver Whitmore, the young millionaire heir to the Whitmore real estate empire, and Evelyn Carter, the notorious wealthy socialite known for her rebellious lifestyle, had been the subject of public fascination for weeks. Oliver stood firmly at the ceremonial altar, impeccably dressed in a classic black tuxedo. His expression remained unreadable, his piercing gaze fixed on the woman slowly walking toward him. Evelyn, adorned in a breathtaking mermaid-style wedding gown by a renowned designer, had eyes as deep as the ocean, reflecting a sorrow she could not disguise under the dazzling lights. Among the guests, whispers filled the air. "She's nothing more than a decorative accessory for Oliver. This must be an arranged marriage. Who actually believes they're in love?" As their eyes met, both could read the truth in each other's gaze. This was nothing more than a transaction, a loveless deal. "Do you take this woman to be your wife?" The officiant's voice echoed coldly yet clearly. Oliver barely hesitated before responding. "I do." "And do you, Miss Carter, take this man to be your husband?" A faint smirk tugged at Evelyn's lips, her voice laced with icy composure. "I do." There was no romantic kiss, no affectionate squeeze of hands. Oliver slid the expensive diamond ring onto Evelyn's delicate finger with the precision of someone fulfilling an obligation rather than pledging a lifetime commitment. After the hours-long reception, Oliver and Evelyn finally returned to Whitmore Mansion. The grand estate stood like a cold fortress on the banks of the Thames River, its golden lights reflecting on the water like fragments of distant memories. Stepping into the honeymoon suite, Evelyn took in the meticulously arranged space. White roses, scented candles, and sheer silk curtains draped invitingly, creating an atmosphere of undeniable allure. Yet to her, it all felt hollow, devoid of warmth or meaning. She stood by the window, gazing at the dazzling London skyline. Dressed in a white silk gown, her delicate shoulders glowed under the soft light as if they might vanish at the slightest touch. Behind her, Oliver loosened his tie, his eyes following her every movement with a mix of curiosity and something he couldn't quite define. Finally, he broke the silence, his voice deep and laced with unmistakable possessiveness. "Shall we start playing the roles of husband and wife?" Evelyn turned, her piercing gaze meeting his scrutinizing one. A cold smile played on her lips, devoid of any affection. "This role lasts 3 months, doesn't it?" Oliver smirked, closing the distance between them with deliberate steps, his hand lifted, grazing her cheek, feeling the softness of her skin and the cool detachment beneath her poised expression. He had prepared himself to conquer a reckless socialite, a woman he believed was accustomed to luxury and indulgence, but as he drew closer, Evelyn instinctively took a step back, her eyes flashing a mix of defiance and something else, mockery. "I think you've misunderstood me," she said softly, her voice calm yet powerful enough to make Oliver pause. His brow arched in intrigue, a rare display of curiosity breaking through his usual composed demeanor. "Oh? Then surprise me." Evelyn held his gaze, the depths of her blue eyes unwavering, showing neither fear nor hesitation. "What kind of woman do you think I am, Oliver? A spoiled, easy conquest?" Her question was sharp, cutting through his ego like a blade. For a brief second, Oliver was caught off guard, but he masked it well. Evelyn took another step back, creating careful distance, though the flicker of pain in her eyes did not escape his notice. "I've never belonged to anyone, and I am not as easy as you think." The revelation hit Oliver like a punch to the gut, sending a wave of shock through his carefully constructed perceptions. His hands, in the middle of undoing his shirt cuffs, froze midair. Evelyn was still a virgin. It was the last thing he had expected from the woman whose name was constantly linked to wild parties and scandalous rumors. A heavy silence settled between them. Evelyn could see the flicker of disbelief in his expression, and she seized the moment. her lips curling into a smirk tinged with irony. Disappointed Oliver. Oliver remained silent, studying her with an intensity that made the air between them thick with unspoken tension. He had severely misjudged her, and that realization stung more than he cared to admit. "I thought you were smarter than that," Evelyn continued, her voice laced with both bitterness and a vulnerability she tried to hide. Oliver's lips twitched, frustration simmering beneath his calm exterior. He wasn't used to being wrong, especially about people. He took a step back, his voice lower, more contemplative. "Then why did you agree to marry me?" Evelyn crossed her arms over her chest, her eyes shimmering with a blend of sarcasm and resignation. "Because I needed an escape from the life my father and stepmother arranged for me. You weren't the perfect choice, but at least you weren't as terrible as the man they picked for me." Oliver felt an unexpected twinge of irritation. He had never considered himself as anyone's second option, let alone a convenient escape plan. The room grew quieter, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Evelyn stood still for a long moment before turning away, her shoulders trembling slightly, yet she maintained her poised exterior, leaving Oliver alone with a whirlwind of thoughts. He watched her retreating figure, for the first time feeling as though he had lost control of a situation he thought he could manipulate. Evelyn was no easy game, no mere accessory he could shape to his liking. She was a mystery, a challenge he had not anticipated, and that made her all the more dangerous to him.